Hi there, my artsy family. Ken here, your thrifty apprentice. So welcome back to the channel, everyone. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at a budget student grade watercolor set, but this one happens to be by a legacy company. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the Rowney student grade graduate line of watercolors. Let's get into it. Okay, friends, I have been anxiously waiting to get to this video. I really want to give these watercolors a try, so I am so glad we are finally getting around to taking a first look at Rowney's graduate watercolors. So we are going to take a really close look at these and give them a really good whirl and see what the quality of them may be over a couple of videos, and then we will eventually be getting around to a review. So here we have a watercolor set that's in a black tin wrapped with plastic and has a belly band on top. The belly band says Rowney student grade. There's 12 half pans. There is one brush included, Rowney graduate watercolors. Then it just says watercolor and then in several different languages. And here you're going to have a depiction of what the palette looks like once it's open in the brush that's included. So right away, from the way it's packaged, I can tell that it's definitely meant for a more economical audience, because it really reminds me of the way that the packaging for the Simply line of watercolors by Rowney, the appearance that they have. Now that Simply line is their targeted entry level sort of range of art products, because the Simply line does have like gouache as well as watercolor. It has acrylic and oils and color pencils and all these different products under that particular line. Now, the next step up, according to Rowney, is the graduate, which is the student grade. And then from here, you would go into the aquafine and professional, being their professional targeted paints. Flipping it over on the back, you're going to get information about it. There is a swatching chart. Of course, it's digitized, so there will be a slight variation in the way those colors look versus the way that it looks swatched out on a watercolor paper or a water-soluble paper. It does say student set again, so it's letting you know without a doubt that this is a student grade set. It gives the information for Rowney and the fact that the product is produced in the United Kingdom. There's the AP stamp of approval, and those swatches do give you the color name as well as the color number. Now, I do not see any light, fast, or pigment information as of yet. So let's pull this, and we are going to go ahead and pull the plastic off. So the tin is a really lightweight metal. I'm not quite sure what it may be. Tin, it may be painted tin. Popping it open, you're going to have 3-4 mixing wheels there in the top. I mean, it's thin, but it feels pretty stable put together. There's a molded tray insert with 4 mixing wheels. You're going to get your 12 colors of paint, and there is a paintbrush included, which looks to be a number 1 round, which is a really interesting choice. It looks like this plastic insert can come out. Yeah, that'll come out, and you could possibly use that for other things. That'd make a cute pencil case for traveling. So definitely a reusable tin. I'm gonna see if I can maneuver that back in really quickly, and that is pretty much the packaging, straightforward. So you do get the color names and the color numbers on the box. So you would need to go ahead and transfer those to your swatching paper, but you do not get any light, fast, or pigment information. So I will be doing some research to see if I can obtain that. We're going to move on and kind of swatch the paints out, which I will time lapse. And then we will do a demo with them. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet, but we will get to that in just a moment. Let's swatch these paints. Right out of the gate, I started to feel like I have used these watercolors before. From the layout of the palette to the color choices, this graduate set started out being really reminiscent of the Aquafine colors. Although the design of the packaging is straightforward like the Simply line of products, the quality from the very beginning was, well, simply better. Pardon the pun. Using my normal 3-layered swatching method, I set out to see how well the paints would glaze and layer. The first wash went down with no issues, and the paints were not hard to wet or activate from their pan form. Once wet, the formula of the paints, however, were extremely different, in my opinion, from the Aquafine. But I will talk more about that once I shoot and release the review video for the graduate set in about a week or so. I really wanted to take this video to get a good first look at the paint set. You know, to swatch it and to play around with it. I was trying to see what its limitations may have been before moving into a more complicated composition than the one that will be demoed in this video. The burnt sienna of all the colors included seemed to be the most weird of the paints. It just had a funny texture and seemed harder to wet and to get a pigment payout from than any of the other colors. I thought that was funny because I had the same first impression of the burnt sienna from the Aquafine set when I first used it. The colors are actually really bright and pretty. Plus, I didn't notice a huge color shift from wet to dry, although I will be testing that more before the review as well. The glaze layer went down with no problems. I did have a bit of an issue with the burnt sienna, for it seemed to want to lift more than it wanted to layer. I did swatch with a round and then switch to a flat in order to do the glazing. Using a flat synthetic will help with water control, which can make all of the difference in your layers once you decide to glaze. I did fill out my swatching sheet as much as I could, but as of now, I have not been able to source any pigment numbers for this set. However, if you cross-reference the color numbers from this set with the Aquafine set, you will find that the index numbers for the colors match. This, however, was not surprising since Rowney is a legacy company and does produce its own paints in-house. As I glazed on the third layer, it was more mass toned than any of the previous ones. 11 of the paints did really well with handling this, other than the burnt sienna, which again wanted to lift more than layer. Overall, the swatching gave me a great view as to what I might be able to expect from this set as I moved into a painting demo to see if the quality was really worth all of the hype and or the price that may be currently listed on this particular set of paints. Now that we have wrapped up the swatching section of the video, let's go ahead and move into a painting demo where we will be tackling a beautiful, easy birds of paradise flower. To all my Patreon subscribers, you will have a traceable available in the Patreon community to download and paint along. First, I need to apologize, friends, for the video starting with the base layer of the leaf already painted. I thought I pressed record on the camera, and it was only after the leaf was drying did I realize that I didn't do that. So I apologize. However, the color that's on the leaf is made from a mixture of sap green, yellow ochre, and a touch of cad yellow. So you can see right away, I came out of the gate testing the mixing ability of the paints. I mixed them on the palette as well as mixed them on the paper in several different places. I also mixed an orange or gamboge, if you will, from the yellow ochre and a alizarin crimson hue, as well as a purple from the alizarin crimson hue and ultramarine blue. I knew I would need both of those colors to paint my petals. Using different variations of the purple by adjusting it with different amounts of water, I use that purple to paint in the dark center petal you normally see. Now, please don't get offended or mad, friends, if I miscall a part of the flower. I love to paint them, but it is only recently that I have started to study them. So please allow your boy a little grace in that area. I took inspiration for the color of this bird of paradise from over a dozen photos I looked at of the flower on the image page of a Google search. Now, as I painted those orangey yellow petals, I would mix in small amounts of the crimson hue directly from the pan or from mixing it out on the palette at different times. I mainly go around the edges and towards the bottom of each of the petals where it gathers in with the other petals. Any place there was a stacked leaf, I simply used the crimson hue in its masked tone to paint the leaf that was behind or the furthest away. Now, honestly, friends, this particular painting was a little difficult for me. Up until this point, I've really just kind of described what I was doing, but this is where it's going to start to kind of go astray. Now, I'm painting in the stem here, and then I'm going to go in and tackle the vein down the middle of the leaf. And this is where the first quote unquote mistake or the first little noticeable thing came up about the paints. As I tried to glaze on that green that I was going to use to sort of darken only certain parts of the leaf, I noticed that the layer of green that I put down first started to lift. It would reactivate and lift, and it would happen with just a very small stroke of the brush. So the paints will definitely lift, and maybe not necessarily when you want them to. So I had to reconfigure that, and I decided to go ahead and use that color that I was glazing the leaf with to recover the entire leaf because I didn't want it to be streaky. I'm going to have to tackle it from a different angle, and it's not going to resemble the leaf that should be attached to a bird of paradise as much as it should, but it is going to be a leaf that's believable and is going to have kind of convey what I'm trying to convey with the painting anyway. But yes, that the mixture of green that I made, so the ultramarine, I'm sorry, the yellow ochre, the sap green, and that touch of cad that I talked about earlier when we first started the demo, after it dried as a base layer on the leaf, it did start to lift. So the quality of the paints do make them very easy to lift. So there's something to not only note and take note of, but there's something that's great to know going into using a paint. That way you can kind of plan ahead and know some of the obstacles you may run into and how you may want to try to rectify them or even possibly avoid them if you can. As I moved into painting the main part of the flower, I'm not sure what it's called. It may be called a petal or something different. As I asked earlier, please just give me a little grace in that area. I did blend in alizarin crimson, some of the purple that I pre-made earlier, as well as different variations of the green that I pre-made for the leaf. And I blended them in wet on wet just so that they would blend a little easier without any hard lines. And as I did that, I did notice that the purple section wasn't as opaque, or it didn't seem as hold, so to speak, as I needed it to. So you're going to see that once I actually get to the glazing layer with the bleed proof, I am going to go back and blend that white gouache in to give that area of the flower a little bit more body. And that is a trick that you may want to try if you ever find that you want just a little bit more opacity in certain areas. And then I finish highlighting the rest of my flower. So here we are, my friends, with the finished bird of paradise flower. Although I did have a bit of trouble painting, I am okay and sort of pleased with the way that it came out. I love the opacity and the look that white gouache can add to certain things if used, to spruce something up. So how do you feel, guys? Jump in the comment section. Let me know. What did you think about today's video? What do you think about the demo? I would really love to know your thoughts on today's video. If you feel like you learned, picked up on, or just happen to like anything in the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and share, because sharing is caring. If you're new to the channel or returning and you haven't subscribed, hit that subscription button and that notification bell so you'll know when all of the new great content comes out. Check the video description for all of the relevant links, the Facebook group, the Etsy shop, the Patreon community, which I encourage you to check out, explore, and possibly join, the artist wish list, and the most recommended product list. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, as I tell you at the end of every single video, just keep creating.